Hey y'all, it's been a while since I did a long form video, but this is a good opportunity for me to give you guys a little sneak peek at what goes on in my workshop that I don't necessarily post, and that's the development of a set. And as a new artist, it's something that I often have a hard time with. My skills aren't, where I want them to be, but that will come with practice. And just designing things, I have a hard time seeing things in my head, and then making them happen. I kind of have to make them happen and see what it looks like, and then adjust from there. And I'm also just always kind of pushing myself to do something new and different, because I just get bored and I don't want to do the same old thing all the time. So I was working on developing this set here for Bicycle Day, which is tomorrow. So I don't know that it's actually going to be ready, because I'm just not totally happy with where it has gotten so far. It's going to take me a little longer to get everything just the way I want. Now, these are some of the better nails that I've come up with out of this set, but it didn't start here. It started here. Something that, a 10-year-old might draw. But it was just kind of a concept nail, kind of seeing how the different colors were going to work together and which colors I wanted to use and didn't want to use. I was also working on a checkerboard pattern, and, I like this kind of wobbly checkerboard pattern, but I was having issues. I don't have art gels, so I'm just using regular gel polish, and the background color kind of wants to bleed through on these, so I just wasn't really satisfied with the color saturation on them. So I tried to do the colors individually, and then I just wasn't really happy with the crispness of how that checkerboard came out. And then I also tried a stamping design, which is cool, but it's just, I'm having trouble with the background colors bleeding through, and my color on top just not having the pigment density that I need to really cover the background. So I've got a couple more ideas I want to try on the checkerboard before I give up on that and just go for like something either on a white background or with black on top, because you don't have to worry about color bleed through when you do those. So let's see, what else have we got here? We've got the eyeball, which I actually am really pretty happy with the way this turned out. As an amateur or beginner, I was really happy with how this turned out, the colors and the shape and everything. It's not perfect, but for now, it's pretty darn good. Then we've got these little wiggly stripes, which I think are really fun. And this ear kind of happened by accident. I was going to do just a little like abstract textured blob on there. But then I poked my silicone tool in it, and it just kind of turned into an ear. So I gave it a couple of piercings, and there's that. This little gecko here is my first attempt at a hipper, and I think he's really, really cute. He's so tiny. I think I went a little overboard with his spots. So he's another design that I probably will want to try again. But I do think he's so cute with his little curled up tail. Yeah, I kind of want to do one with like the tongue sticking out and like licking his eyeball, because they do that a lot, and it's just kind of funny looking. And this was my first attempt at this design with the starburst dots. with the descending sizes, and I was really happy with this. And with the matte top coat, I love the way the Aura nails come out with the matte top coat. So yeah, I was really happy with the way this one turned out. It doesn't necessarily fit in with the set, but I like it. So today I was gonna try to do a little blooming gel kind of sort of tie-dye look. Let's see how this turns out. This is kind of just a warm-up. And if you want to see me do this nail, it's going to be a blooming gel nail. I'm going to post the full video over on YouTube, and you can see it there. But as for Instagram, we'll probably close it here because I'm over the limit already. Let's see. So I've already gone in. I'm going to be using a PLA color palette today. And that's what I'm using for these nails here. And I want to keep them, you know, kind of carry that color palette all the way through the set. Something I'm not great at because I like to pull out all of the crayons. So I've already gone in and put in a couple layers of Vibe Check from PLA. This is number 181. And it's a nice creamy kind of periwinkle sort of blue. And then I have laid out the other colors I'm going to be using on my palette here. And we have on the palette number 80, Gone Gondola. Number 92, Speak Easy to Me. That's a nice mint green. That Going Gondola is such a nice, like, sherbet, really vibrant color. This is a super saturated hot pink here, number 72, As If. And a nice bright neon yellow, number 90, Girls, Girls, Girls. And so I've got all four of those here on my palette, and I'm going to put on a layer of blooming gel. I have not done a lot of blooming gel nails. It's something I want to play with more, but I've seen a lot of these kind of tie-dyed blooming gel looks, and it just looks really cool. So I wanted to give that a shot. So this is going to be my first attempt at this nail. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll go well, and I'll be encouraged to move on to the next idea that I want to do. I am using a Model 1's blooming gel. I am not super experienced with this. Again, this is the only one that I have. It's the only one that I've tried. So, got that on there. Of course, you don't cure that. I've got all my little dotting tools over here in different sizes. And I want to start, this is a small nail, so yeah, I'm going to start with the big one. So we're going to start actually on the right side with the yellow. And let's see, I want it to kind of curve across the nail. So we're going to go in here and get all of those yellow dots. Okay. And then I want to go in with the next size and do some pink dots inside the yellow dots. At this point, I'm trying to just barely kiss that surface. You don't really want to push all the way through to until you feel the nail. Okay. I'm trying to work fast. Let's go in with our green inside those pink dots. It kind of looks like a caterpillar's pattern. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then we're gonna go in with our last color, this orange. I think I'm getting quiet, but yeah, we're going in with our last color here. Color choice is another area where I really struggle as a beginner. You know, I don't necessarily understand which colors work best together. I know when I see something that I like and the colors look great together, but as for actually putting the colors together, that is something that I'm still learning. That actually looks really good. I am pretty happy with that. She's a spread, and so there's a tiny little bubble right here. I really don't want it in there, but I'm afraid that I'm going to mess it up by trying to pop it. Let's take this tiny little brush and see. It just wants to move around. It doesn't want to pop. Oh well, okay, I can't get it out. So we're gonna just go ahead and toss that into Cure. But yeah, I was actually pretty happy with the way that one turned out. So yeah, we might do a couple more of those to go in this set, play with the color variations a little more. But yeah, I like the way that layered look, and I'm realizing now that I've already stuck it in there that I probably should have removed a little of the product from the sides, because when you're working with blooming gel, it tends to, as it spreads, it tends to kind of pool along the side walls or the side of the tip that you're using, and kind of makes it bulky. And you can actually just take a brush or a lint-free wipe and kind of wipe along the very edge of the bottom without disturbing your pattern. And I probably should have done that, but that's, you know, that's part of experimenting. That's part of trying new things. You got to do it multiple times. It's very rare that something is going to come out just exactly the way you want it the first time you try it, unless you are really super gifted or very well practiced artist, someone that's been doing this for years and really knows how to make their vision come to fruition. Until you get to that point, you know, you're gonna have to try things over and over and experiment and see how they come out. So yeah, this it's not necessarily the color palette I want to finish with. That yellow really spread out and just turned green. So yeah, I want to work with the color variations a little more, but I do really like the effect of that one. So I'm going to put a little matte top coat on it to match the rest of them and just put it aside. And the next nail that I want to work on, I want to do a more graphic nail. I'm going to try to do some little mushrooms on this little one that I've already prepared with white. And I've already prepared that nail with a matte top coat as well, just to make it easier to paint on. It makes it more like painting on paper than painting on something that's super slick or kind of sticky. So yeah, it's a much nicer surface to paint on, easier to control your art. All right, she's off to Cure, and we can move on to this nail next. Oh, I need another jelly jar lid. There we go. Okay, our blooming gel nail is out of the Cure, and she's pretty cute. I did want to show you close up how it has this like lump there, and that's what I was talking about, how the gel kind of settles to the sides as you're adding the colors, and you kind of have to go in and remove some of that with a brush, so that you don't end up with this lump right there. You want to keep a nice shape while you're letting it bloom. So yeah, just another thing that I'll address the next time that I try this look. Okay, now I decided I wanted to go with a pale pink background for my next nail. So ta-da, y'all. Here we go. She's already prepped with a matte top coat. And let's see what we can do here. Hand painting is not, you know, the thing that I'm best at, but it's something that I really want to get good at. I want to be able to paint not necessarily photorealistic stuff, but you know, any kind of cartoon or design that I want to be able to paint, any kind of simple design. I want to get to a level where I'm confident with those designs. So we are going to go with a little mushroom theme on this nail. And let's see, let me pull out the colors that I want to use. I'm going to want some blues, and I don't have a purple, so I'm going to mix a little purple. I have mixed purple out of these colors right here before, and it makes a really nice purple. This is Vibe Check and As If, and it makes a really nice purple. So I'm going to lay out those colors. Let's see, we're going to start, probably not going to use that one. I'm going to start with the Vibe Check. And I'm going to need a teeny tiny little brush. Maybe a dotting tool. So I've been whittling away at this brush to get it as fine as I want it, and it's getting there. She's pretty fine. She's getting to the point where you can count those hairs almost on two hands. Maybe you can. I haven't actually counted the bristles, but there's not a whole lot of them left on there. But that's what you got to do to get those details. You either invest in really good brushes or you butcher your own. So we'll be using that little detail brush, and I'm thinking we're going to use a very small dotting tool. Okay. So I'm just going to start. I did not clean that off good enough. It's still got green on it. Hang on just a second. Okay. I'm going to start by putting down a drop where I want my first mushroom to go. And then I'm going to take this little dotting tool, or this little tiny detail brush rather, and just draw it down into a excuse me, into a bell shape. Got another bubble, and it does not want to pop. I wonder if I can get it with the tweezers. There it goes. That little sucker did not want to pop. Alright, I'm pretty happy with the shape of that, so I am going to flash cure. And we're going to get another little dot with the dotting tool. For this one, I want it to be
About right there. Using the dotting tool, it lays down a nice little tiny blob that you can then draw out with your brush. Yeah, like that. And another one right there. Alright, now we're going to add some little stems, and they're all going to connect together at the bottom. Like this. You know, talking about colors and color palettes, I follow some really fantastic artists, and I really love the color palettes that artists like Playground and Sanzu come up with. You know, they'll use a pretty limited color palette, you know, a little more restrained than I am, but they're very bold, saturated colors that just go so well together, and it just really makes their designs pop in a way that they wouldn't with an amateur color choice. So yeah, those are the kind of choices I strive to make, are the color choices that I see from Playground and Nails Yasanzu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not sure, but yeah, she creates some incredible work, and I'll tag her below so that you guys can find both of them. Actually, I'll tag them both so that you can find them on Instagram. So I just want to go in and make these stems just a little thicker, and doing that by actually putting a little more pressure on the brush than what I was using the first time I put the line down. You want to just trace this over the same line, but press just a little bit harder, and then gently pick it up towards the end. Okay, I'll go ahead and give that a full cure, because I think I'm ready to move on to another color. I think I'm going to do a little bit of Magic Mountains, number 98. Excuse me. But yeah, this is what I spend most of my time doing, is experimenting. This is the stuff you don't see. I only post what I'm willing to show the rest of the world most of the time. But today is kind of a sneak peek into you know, the process, the progress, and the mistakes. The want-wahs, you know. Okay. So that's before any details. I'm going to go in now, clean that brush off. Go in with this Magic Mountains color. And I want to trace the stems. This just gives them a little highlight, adds a little depth. Give it a little bit of a frill right here. I normally do this kind of work under magnification, but for you guys, I am toughing it out without magnification. And I'm afraid that little frill is going to bleed if I leave it sitting there too long, so I'm going to just flash cure. Yeah, we're going to use this blue and do highlights on the tops of the mushrooms as well, and we're going to go in with a little purple and just continuing to add variations there, just slight variations in shade. Just give it a little more realism. I'm not really going for photorealism, but you know, it sells the idea of the mushroom a little better if it's got a little more detail to it. So I'm going to give them these little details in various shades of blue and purple. And I'm not real happy with that one, so that is why we flash cure. I can just wipe her off without messing up anything else. And then I can go back in and do it again. And watch out for that little beading up on the tip. You don't want that when you're doing your fine lines. You want to make sure you really drag that out. I'm dragging it off too much. I don't have anything left to work with here. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, it's a balance. That's another thing I'm still learning. It's brush work. You know, making the brush do what you want it to do. Especially with different consistencies in products, it can be difficult. Okay, let me just flash cure that frill. And put just a tiny frill on this last one. I do find that I need a warm-up period. You know, I get more comfortable with my brush strokes as time goes on in a session. So, you know, I might be really anxious with the first one that I do, but then I start getting a feel for it. And that's, you know, that part of that is because I haven't really developed the muscle memory for the brush strokes yet. I've learned it, but I haven't internalized it. So I have to get back into that comfortable place when I'm starting every day. Especially because I'm trying so many different things, you know, I haven't really figured out what my style is yet, so I'm always looking and experimenting and trying to find my way. You know, there are so many different things that I love about this art. You know, I love bright saturated colors. I love playing with the cat eyes and the chromes and the 3D sculpting. There's just so many different things that I'm just not really ready to limit myself to a style, you know, and I wouldn't know what style to limit myself to if I wanted to. So let's get back in here. And we've got all our frills. I'm just going to go in and do some little highlight stripes. And watch out for the bead. You don't want that bead when you're doing this. These are very fine lines. And, you know, you might think this level of detail is not going to show up, but it already, you know, you can already see a difference between that and that. You know, just that tiny bit of detail, it really does change the overall look of the art. Alright, I'm going to send that off for a full cure before I start working on my next color, which will be a little purple mix. So I'm going to take what's left of Vibe Check right here and add a little bit, just a little, because I want this to be a pretty dark purple. So I'm just going to do, I guess I could have pulled it off of there, but yeah, there's just a tiny bit of As If, and I'll just use my dotting tool. Oop, I hit the orange. Clean that off. Okay, so yeah, you can see there, I've got a nice dark purple. It's not going to take much of it, this is just going to be a few more fine details. Okay. Alright, let's load up that purple. And I want to go back over the little fringe. I'm basically going to go kind of everywhere that I went with the lighter blue the last time. Just a little here and a little there to give it some highlights. Or lowlights, I guess. Yeah, at this point I'm already, starting to feel a little more comfortable with my brush strokes. Kind of remember what the brush is going to do when you do various things. Alright, I'm going to full cure that. Now I'm going to clean off my brush real good because I'm going to be going to a lighter color. I'm going to go to our lightest blue that we're going to be using on this one, which is Batty O'Clock, number 168. This is just a really nice sky blue. It's got just like a touch of gray to it. It's a gorgeous color. Kind of like a sky after the rain. Gorgeous. Okay, got a clean brush. And just load it up with Batty O'Clock. And go in and do a few little highlights. I kind of want an empty space on this nail. I kind of want to fill it with something, but I'm not quite sure yet what I want to put there. Alright, cure that. I'm gonna figure out what to put in all that empty space. Okay, so we're cured. You can see all the little details on there. And I think I'm gonna try some little wet on wet dots to put in the empty space here, using the colors we've already used. Now, this is another technique that, aside from the blooming gel, I have not done at all. So, we'll see how this goes. We're gonna start with a nice little dot right here. And we might not do perfect dots. We might do kind of wonky dots. I actually really like drawing with dotting tools. It's something I've just recently started playing with, but got a pretty good bit of control depending on the size you use. And it really moves the polish around nicely. I just don't think I'm going to be happy with that. So I'm going to wipe that off. Another thing I love about gel polish, you can just wipe it off if it's not cured. And maybe I do like a drip. I don't know. I'm just really not sure what I want to do. Maybe I want to leave it the way it is. But it looks kind of plain up next to the rest of these. But again, you know, that's part of development. It doesn't always work out the way you want it to. I chose that pale pink background because I knew I could cover it with the polishes I was using, but I just don't, I don't like it. I don't like it with the rest of the nails. I want that hot pink that's so hard to cover. So yeah, I'll probably end up doing this nail at least one more time, but you were here for the first one.
All right, y'all. That's it for today.